Welcome to my podcast. Today I'll be giving fantasy hockey advice as well as fantasy football and fantasy basketball waiver wire advice. Disappointing players in fantasy hockey. Center Jeff Carter. Jeff Carter has 0 goals and just 3 points so far this season. To make matters worse, he's out an extended period of time. Owners who drafted Carter are definitely disappointed. Left winger Sebastian Aho. Sebastian Aho has 0 goals and just 8 points so far this season. He can still turn the season around, but owners who drafted him are definitely not happy. Right winger Mikael Granlund. Mikael Granlund has 1 goal and just 5 points so far this season. He has been a huge disappointment for fantasy owners. Defenseman D-Brent Burns. D-Brent Burns has 0 goals and just 7 points so far this season. Considering he was picked in the first round in most leagues, I would say he is a huge disappointment so far. Defenseman R.W. Ristolainen. R.W. Ristolainen had just 5 points so far this season and is now injured. Let's just say that owners who picked him are very disappointed. Goalie G-Carey Price. The biggest disappointment so far this season has to be G-Carey Price. He has just 3 wins, a 3.77 GAA, and a .877 save percentage. And to make matters worse, he is now injured. Next week, I'll be talking about breakout players in fantasy hockey. Fantasy football waiver wire, players to pick up for week 11. Quarterback D-Rasmus Kizer. D-Rasmus Kizer played his best game in the NFL so far in Week 10, putting up 22.98 fantasy points. Pick him up in keeper or dynasty leagues. Running back Ekeler. Ekeler put up 21.90 fantasy points in Week 10. If you need a running back in a deep league, he could be an option. Running back Burkhead. Burkhead put up 12.30 fantasy points in Week 10. His role on the Patriots has steadily expanded, so you might want to consider picking him up. Wide receiver Sammy Watkins. Sammy Watkins scored a touchdown in back-to-back weeks. If Watkins is still available in your league, pick him up. Wide receiver Jamison Crowder. In the last 2 weeks, Jamison Crowder totaled 199 yards receiving. He looks to be one of Kirk Cousins' favorite targets. Tight end Jermaine Gresham. Jermaine Gresham has 64 yards receiving and 1 touchdown in Week 10. He'll look to continue his strong play against the Houston Texans in Week 11. Defense, Los Angeles Rams defense. LA Rams defense put up 15 fantasy points in Week 10 and have a good matchup against the Minnesota Vikings in Week 11. Kicker Will Lutz. Will Lutz put up 13 fantasy points in Week 10 and have a good matchup against the Washington Redskins in Week 11. Next week, I'll be talking about players to pick up in fantasy football for Week 12. Fantasy basketball waiver wire, players to pick up number 1. Mike James. Mike James averaged 12.7 points, 3.8 rebounds, and 1.3 3-pointers made last week. He is worth owning in all leagues, as he has been one of the best players on the Phoenix Suns this season. Shooting guard Donovan Mitchell. Donovan Mitchell averaged 12.9 points and 1.8 3-pointers made last week. He is worth owning in all leagues if you can live with his poor field goal percentage. Small forward Bojan Bogdonovic. Bojan Bogdonovic averaged 14 points and 2.8 3-pointers made last week. He is worth picking up if you need 3-pointers made. Power forward John Collins. John Collins averaged 12 points and 7.3 rebounds, along with 1.3 blocks last week. He is a good player to pick up if you need rebounds and blocks. Center Alex Len. Alex Len averaged 11.5 points, 8.3 rebounds, and 1.3 blocks in the last week. He should be owned in all leagues because of his monster upside. Next week, I'll be doing another fantasy basketball waiver wire. Next podcast, I'll be talking about breakout players in fantasy hockey as well as fantasy football and fantasy basketball waiver wire advice.